Hello, everyone. My name is Daniel Pinedo. Welcome to Be a Leader podcast, where we talk about small, medium, big issues within sports, military, and business. I am on the road today. I'm not home in Dallas. I'm on the road in Boston to be with a client today. But today we're going to talk about James Franklin, Patrick Kraft, and Penn State. What is going on here? I'll say right now, it's mind-blowing to me what happened. They were at the top of the rankings starting up in the season. They were number 3, Penn State hosting number 6, Oregon. They lost to Oregon, double overtime. They lost again the next week against unranked UCLA at UCLA, and then they lost again against unranked Northwestern at home. Anyways, is this all about football? Well, you know me, this on Be a Leader podcast. No, it's not. It's about leadership. It's about values. It's about message. So there's 4 questions that we're going to go through today. So let's get started. Okay, so the first one. What are you teaching your team when you fire someone midseason? Okay, that's the first thing I want to talk about here. What's the message you're sending? Think about the team's age, right? 18 to 25-year-olds were the age of my college basketball players. It's going to be the same thing with these kids. What are you telling these kids? These messages, these experiences are going to live with them for a long time, okay? I think when you fire someone midseason, it's more about it's almost like an emotional response, more than focusing on an agreement. And I think that's the challenge. As leaders, we need to have good, powerful agreements. Agreements are we have a shared vision of the future. We're going to be doing things committed towards that vision. It's not compliance, not a check in the box. But then when you have these reactions, it just feels like it's emotional panic, and panic is not a plan. But panic is going to impact all these kids, all the student athletes, student managers, student trainers, the whole staff, and Penn State Nation. This is a big deal, okay? And to have panic in the middle of season is not a plan. I did look at the notes of Patrick Kraft when he talked about after in the press release. He said the goal was, quote, winning a national championship. Guess who else has that goal? All the other 200 plus Division I schools. Everyone has that goal. So part of it might be the whole agreement process. Is it to actually win the national championship, or is it be competitive national championship, or what else is it? We don't know. But what we do know is he fired him mid-season. What is the message you are sending? That's what leaders need to think about, these ripple effects. And again, emotion, panic is not a plan. Anyways, that's the first one. Be critical. I think it's worth being said. I think it's worth provoking that question and thinking about that. Let's go to the second one. What did happen after this Oregon loss? I said briefly some of the statistics, right? It was a double overtime loss at home, okay? Penn State was ranked 3. Oregon was ranked 6. Oregon was coming over to Happy Valley. The atmosphere was electrifying. I wish I could have been there. And they lost in a heartbreaking double overtime game. Extremely competitive. When I think overtime, I think extremely competitive. Okay, it did result. It was a last moment interception that ended the chances, and that's how the game ended in double overtime. But it was a very competitive game against a very, very good Oregon team. Both these teams made it to the college football playoffs. Okay, both of them. They're not bad teams. They're great teams. And Oregon looked amazing. Okay. And Penn State looked like they were still trying to step up to the challenge, but it was a double overtime loss. And that, as a coach, college basketball coach, my job is to make my team competitive and have a chance to win the game. Did Penn State have a chance to win the game? They definitely did have a chance to win the game. Could there have been areas to learn from both the coaching and the player side? Absolutely. But they had a chance to win the game. But you might say that wasn't necessarily the problem. And I agree with you. Okay. We go into UCLA. It's in Los Angeles. Okay. They're a 24.5 point favorite. Penn State is. And UCLA is the underdog, 24.5 points. And UCLA also had their shakeup. They lost like all their games at this point. They had also fired their coach because apparently panic is a plan in college sports. And the quote I got from here was, "We had 2 days to practice a new game plan. All we did was make them believe." That was the quote from UCLA. And they beat Penn State in Los Angeles, even though they were a 24.5 point underdog and had like no leadership. All they did was show up believing, which says the question, why wasn't Penn State showing up believing? Why weren't they believing? What was going on with their coaching staff? Were they still being hurt, feeling bad for themselves, sad? Jeez. And then the next game, which just happened this past weekend, they host Northwestern. Team that can't win in the Big Ten. Host them in Happy Valley, in their gigantic stadium. Second only to the Big House. Go Blue. And Northwestern is a 21.5-point underdog. And Northwestern wins. Yes, it's by 1 point. They win. The quote I got here was from the coaching staff at Northwestern. They said, we expected to win because they are still questioning who they are. And Penn State was sloppy in that game, if you look at the stats. Identity is so important. Identity. This is stuff I work on with my clients, whether they're coming out of the military, still in the military, college athletes, different types of athletes, business leaders. Identity is everything. It's the foundation. And if you're still questioning who you are, it's going to show. And that's what showed. Okay. The Oregon game was them trying to finally prove themselves that they have what it takes to be a top 10 team, right? And beat other top 10 teams. When all the cards are in your favor because it's a home crowd and a gigantic, amazing stadium, right? Everything's in your favor, and you're still trying to prove to yourself because you're having a hard time believing it. And then here, UCLA says, all we did was believe, and then Northwestern says, Penn State doesn't even know who they are. And that's the results we're getting. Identity is so important. I love working with my clients on identity because we need to have it. Where is one of my leadership principles is profit from shortcomings. Where are we learning from the shortcomings of that Oregon game? Let's say they didn't. They didn't learn anything. There was no profit from them. You could argue if they profit from them, they would have crushed and take care of the business, been very efficient, crushed both opponents, continue to move on because they still have big games. They still play against Ohio State, that team we don't like to talk about too much, later on at the end of the year. Okay? They could have profited from that tough, painful loss. With me, with my college basketball teams, I'd rather have some big losses in the beginning of the year, learn from them. So by the end of the year, when we're peaking, we've overcome those issues. And when we get to one of those tournaments where it's one and done scenario, you're not having to relearn something. Okay. You've already learned it. It's part of it. Okay. You got to build that team, go through those frictions. That's why in the Marine Corps, we train so much so that when we go in combats, we've seen a lot. Okay, it's second nature. We don't have to think. We just go. We go. Profit from shortcomings did not happen. Huge leadership failure. Huge leadership failure. Okay, being critical. That's the point of this, right? Provoke thoughts because we can learn from this. Let's go to 3. Does James Franklin have a coach? That's a question I'm asking myself. It's worth asking. Does he have his own executive coach? You have a coach because it's someone who's there who's going to tell you the way things that you don't see. It's a separate observer. Okay. Sometimes they're mentors because they've been in that craft. Those are helpful. Sometimes they're not mentors, but they also work with other high performers because they all see something that you can't see. They stretch you. Okay. I look at other coaches. I look at Harbaugh, how long it took him to finally win, right, in Michigan. Ryan Day, his challenges. He won a national championship this past year. It seems like Franklin's been stuck for years. Okay. If you stop being coach, you stop being credible. I don't know if Franklin has a coach. I have to assume he has one. But if he has one, he needs a new one. And now, definitely, now without a job, he needs a new one. Because that's how you're going to get to the next stop. You got to have someone who's challenging you, who cares for you only, and is going to help you get to that next spot. Because we shouldn't be doing this alone. That's the third question. Does he have a coach? Question for all of us. I have a coach. I have a few coaches, right? Because I'm trying to get better. Okay. And the fourth one, last question here. What's the real problem here? Okay. I'm going to say something that might be a little bit different. I think his 10-year contract was the problem. Okay. In 2021, he got a 10-year contract worth $85 million. I think it's like $8 million a year, something like that. Okay. And it included a buyout of $50 million. Okay, that to me is a joke. A 10-year contract is a joke. It's a comfort blanket. It's to make everyone feel good. Okay. It's to make Patrick Kraft, the athletic director, say, we got someone who's no one's going to take. We feel good about ourselves. It's lazy. It's laziness. You should have contracts based on performance. I love MotoGP. It's like the F1, right? Formula One racing. You can look at it too. Most contracts can be 1, 2. Some rarely do they have more. The 2 one's nice because you can renew it, right? You renew it every other year. You're always trying to see where the performance is. You look at businesses. A lot of it is vested in stock performance. Elon Musk is on the news all the time, and his stock performance packages, they're absurd, but so is the growth of the company. And a lot of his compensation is based on performance metrics. Don't do a 10-year contract. You're asking for complacency. In the military, in the Marine Corps, we say complacency kills because then you get soft. Don't be soft, okay? Create a package where it's not 10 years, a decade long, and is attached to some kind of metrics of performance. Maybe some of the compensation is bonus performance, like there's the budget, it's there, but this clicks in if you do X, if you're the top 10 of the Big Ten conference, right? If you go to the conference championship game, if you go to the playoff game, if you win a national championship, there's incentives on there, and incentives is a whole nother conversation. But the point being is 10-year contract is lazy. And in my opinion, okay, if we're going to get rid of Franklin, why aren't we firing the athletic director also? Why isn't Patrick Kraft getting shown the road? He's the one who wrote this thing. He might be the start of all the issues at Penn State, okay? I don't know the guy. I haven't spent any time with him, but I can look at this right here and say that's the number one problem, okay? You're writing an agreement that's killing the edge. That first question was about agreements, right? We talked about what are we teaching them? Agreements over emotions. What is the agreement, right? But you're killing the agreement with the softness. Don't be soft. Jeez. Okay. What else do I have here? Yeah, guaranteed pay. If you get guaranteed pay does not guarantee results. Guaranteed pay does not guarantee results. Okay? Think about that. All right. Let's wrap this up. I saw the press notes from Patrick Kraft, the athletic director. He says he wanted the best chance to win. That's what he said after he fired Coach Franklin. Is that really creating the best chance to win? If you fire a coach who's been there since 2014, mid-season? I challenge him on that. No, I would say no. I would say no. And all the other stuff I showed. There's definitely a leadership problem here. Okay? Because that's how we look like. Be a leader is the name of this podcast because we're challenging everyone to be a leader. I think there's leadership issues with Patrick Kraft on the stuff we talked about. I think there's leadership issues with James Franklin. We've talked about that. So best chance to win? Baloney. Okay, baloney. Okay, ending. So top things. Reaction is not leadership. This panic, it's not leadership. Okay, being moody, right, with your feet behind your tail, or your tail behind your legs and scooping down, or woe is us. Can't learn from these shortcomings. Not leadership. Okay, comfort, making these long, decade-long things. Not leadership. Okay, here I put these top things right here on my college basketball whiteboard. Okay, leader set the tone. Starts from the top. That's why I'm going after the athletic director. I think there's an issue there, and it goes to the head coach too, and it keeps going down. Okay, should be leadership at every level. Leaders set the tone. Okay, and followers mirror the belief. If they're showing up at UCLA and they don't believe to win, they're not going to win. Even the Oregon game, they're questioning. Don't question. Go out and crush it. Who are you? Show up that way. Northwestern, take care of business. Okay, it starts from there. And then culture compounds. It's consistency. Culture isn't what you say, it's what you do over and over and over and over and over and over. And if you are constantly questioning who you are, you're going to show up that way. And if you don't declare who you are and live through that, then someone else is going to declare it for you and tell you until you believe it, and then you lose your job and whatever else. Okay. Until Penn State does all three of these, okay, they're going to keep recruiting talent, but they're going to keep losing hearts too, losing a lot of frustration. I'm rooting for Penn State. I'm a Michigan guy. I'm a Michigan man. I'm rooting for Penn State here. Okay. So again, whether you're leading yourself, you're leading others, or you're leading leaders, be a leader. My name is Daniel Pinedo. Thank you for watching. Until next time. Bye.